Hi, this is Catherine. This is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is Harney and Sons Murder on the Orient Express blend, which sounds funny, but it has a kind of it's almost like a smoky Earl Grey taste. I'm trying to see if they say what's in this. Black tea, oolong tea, jasmine tea, bergamot oil, contains natural flavor, whatever that means. So I like it, but the reason why I picked it to drink today is because it's my last cup. This comes with tea bags, and it's the last bag, which is kind of sad. I hope I can get more someday. We'll see. I don't know if it's limited edition, but I felt like I've had it for a while. I need to just finish it already, and I think very nice. I think that that kind of works for this TBR today. So this is the TBR for December, but this is essentially not any new books. I'm not picking up anything new. Kind of. Now, I did a video very recently about all the library books I have checked out, which I hope to finish also, most of them this month. And I've explained why in that video. But there may be one or two books that I haven't really started in that pile. So I'm not technically not starting anything new, but I'm not starting anything new that I own. Or I'm trying not to. I'm trying to self-control and not starting anything new. And there's a good reason for that. Because I have a pile of books next to me that I'm going to show you that I have made some progress in. Some of which I've made a lot of progress in. Some of which I only made 10, 12 pages in, but really want to keep going in. And almost all of these are books that I started this year and just accumulated as currently reading. Most of which you could see if you have my Goodreads under currently reading, but some of these may not be in there. I don't know. And there's just this thought that I would love to be able to finish. I would love to finish all of these by the end of the year. It's not going to happen unless I spend all of my time reading, which is not going to happen. There's just too many books here. I average a lot fewer books than this a month. So it's not going to happen, but I'd like to make a dent in it. If I could, ideally, I would just love to go into January of 2021 with a clean slate. It's not going to completely happen, but it would be nice to open books begin books in January without feeling like I have all of these behind me that are still waiting for me. And you could say, well, why did you let this happen? Well, I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one who has let this happen. Sometimes I start a number of books. Ideally, I like to have about 3 going at once, just, different types of books, whatever. But sometimes I start just a number of books and I get into a number of them, and the next month comes along, I open up some more books because I always have a TBR with more books. And this is fine, but it does accumulate a little bit because, sometimes I get more into one book, more into another book, I check out library books, etc. Then I go into the big challenge months like Jane Austen July, Victober, etc., nonfiction November. And usually those kind of months, I'm focusing on certain types of books, and a lot of these books may not fit in those. So then I put all those books aside and start new ones. And some of those I don't finish either, so they go into another month. And this just happens to the point that I just have so many, and I would just like to really finish a bunch of these. This is not an indication of non-readability. Unreadability? Disreadability? You know what I mean? Like, a lot of these books I actually like. Some of them more than others. And there are some books that I started and made progress in that I'm not going to show you because I'm just not really in the mood for them. So these are all books that I could read in December. So let's get into it. Some of these books, there's no order here. Some of these are books I started a while back. Some of them I just started. It's random. I just piled them all up. So this one is my most recent. It is kind of a haul because I bought it right before Thanksgiving. I just took a walk after work. I went, took a nice Central Park walk, went to the Upper West Side of Manhattan, went to a lovely place called Westsider Books that is still there. Found this book and another one, but and just really wanted to start this one. By the way, I recommend Westsider Books. If it's a little narrow, so it's kind of a little bit of a rough place to be sometimes, especially for distancing, so gotta be careful. But everybody was wearing masks, which is good. And pretty much distancing. But there's a cat named Pig. Anyway, I'm really going off track. This is The Regency Years by Robert Morrison, during which Jane Austen writes, Napoleon fights, Byron makes love, and Britain becomes modern. So there's a lot going on in this book, but it is a time period that I like to read about. I don't like as much of the literature during this time as I do the history, except Jane Austen, of course. Hello. But you know, that could change. So I started it, and so far I like it. It was something I was in the mood for after reading the amazing Romantic Outlaws, because it's kind of that time period. So speaking of which, I also didn't make a lot of progress in, to be honest, but I still want to read this now. A Vindication of the Rights of Woman by Mary Wollstonecraft. But it also has other related essays and stuff. It has an essay that Virginia Woolf wrote about Mary Wollstonecraft. I think it was about Mary Wollstonecraft. I don't think it was about Mary Shelley as well. Either way, I was hoping I could find that, because I have a book of her essays about writers and literature and stuff, and it wasn't in there, so I really want to read this. This is a book that I started in Victober. It was kind of related to a prompt, but I just didn't get as far as I would have liked, and I would like to read more about it because it's one of my favorite subjects, as the illustrated letters and diaries of the Pre-Raphaelites. Selected and introduced by Jan Marsh. It wasn't as gripping as I thought. I don't know if it was just the styling of the book, but the pictures are really pretty. And it's really not that big of a book, so I could make progress. And a bit of a 180 here, except for it takes place in Britain. All of these so far are British. We'll see if we can get past that a little bit here. Oh my goodness. I have such a record for that. This is a book that I started in August. There was a history challenge, which I kind of didn't prepare for. It came upon me suddenly out of nowhere, so I didn't really have much preparation for it. So I didn't pick a lot. I thought I would at least be able to read this book, and I did get up to page 214, so not as far as I would have liked. But nevertheless, it's almost halfway through, and it was interesting. Sometimes it took a little concentration with the names, but that is Alfred's Britain, War and Peace in the Viking Age by Max Adams. So, you know, I remember getting us to the Strand. I was really excited. I was reading it in August, and then I stopped in September, and since then, Now, this is a book I read, or I should say I started. Let's see, I got up to page, I don't have to tell you every time what page I'm up to, but this guy got up to page 75, so not massive progress, but I started this because the Metropolitan Museum of Art was did actually reach I think it's like 150th anniversary this year, and I was going to get all read up on it and go visit and have a great time, and then, of course, you know, COVID happened and we all weren't going anywhere really, and since then the Met has opened, but I haven't gone yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to, but this is about the history, Rogues Gallery, the secret history of the moguls and the money that made Metropolitan Museum. They made the Metropolitan Museum by Michael Gross. So, sorry about that. You ever have one of those necklaces that just like the chain just anyway. It is an interesting history. It's not British history, although I'm sure there'll be a little bit of that tying in. But it's New York history. But this time period, like the kind of Gilded Age-ish time period, does fascinate me. There are people I'd not read about before. So yeah, this book was what I picked as one of the prompts for Nonfiction November, and I got about halfway through, but some chapters are just not as good as the other chapters, so I'm stuck again, and I don't know if I'm going to keep going for a while, but I kind of want to. I don't know. It's not as good as I wanted it to be, considering I read two others of Simon Garfield's books and liked them, and this is Timekeepers. Pretty good, but sometimes it just gets into subjects like, I mean, there's just so much I need to know about the making of watches. Anyway. Here's a book I really had wanted to make progress in Victober, and I only got as far as page 64, which is not enough, really, and it's a story that I know a bit about, but I just wanted to read it. I was so grateful, that's not the right word, but I was so happy to have read Jane Eyre finally, but I didn't get to finish North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, and wouldn't it be great to finish this year? As well as Shirley by Charlotte Bronte. I don't need to finish The Professor, but I would like to finish Shirley. I actually made big progress in it and really liked it. Just, again, so many books, so little time. Okay. Speaking of Victober, this one I started not in Victober, but I started in December of last year. So, and I keep showing this to you guys, so if you've been watching my videos, you know what I'm about to show you. It's Dombey and Son by Charles Dickens. It is a great story. I just don't know why I can't keep going in it. I just keep getting distracted by other books. But at least I finished Tenant of Wildfell Hall, so that was progress that I made of a Victorian novel. Right? Something. Speaking of which, I got my Take Courage, Anne Bronte and the Art of Life by Samantha Ellis. Now that I've read all of Anne Bronte's books, which are 2 of them, I still think that if she would have lived longer, even another decade or so, arguably, and I don't know, she could have been better. I don't like to say better, but you know what I mean. Her books could have been better than Charlotte Bronte's. I don't know. But yeah, I made some progress in this. I got frustrated because there was a lot of spoilers, which, what did I expect? But I guess I was in denial. But I can now keep going in this book. Yes. Okay. There was another challenge that I entered, but I didn't do a good job of it. I did some of the prompts, or whatever you call it. It was the Fall Into Reading Challenge, and I thought anything related to autumn is awesome for me. There are just so many different types of books, and it just didn't fit in 100%. Like, I didn't really finish a graphic novel, that sort of thing. But I started a science fiction, and I didn't get that far, but I know the story has, is something that I was into. Just didn't have any room for it. I still have the Strand sticker on here, but it's The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula Le Guin. It's an interesting, it's about some kind of like planet where everybody is basically, I don't know if it's non-gendered or both gendered or whatever you call it, but I don't know. It was interesting. I was just getting into the whole world building feeling, and then I stopped because I had other things to read. It was going into Victober, This was an ARC, an advanced reader copy, an uncorrected proof that I started, and I lost the bookmark, but I think I know where I left off. It went into tangents, and it was, I'm not saying it's not for me. It could be good, but I think I started reading it mainly right when we were going into lockdown the first time, and it just wasn't something that was holding me. And that is Pain Studies by Lisa Olstein, a writer who suffers from migraines, like chronic migraines. And it is still pretty good. I do want to go back to it, especially since I was supposed to review it. Then the site that I do this for isn't very strict on that sort of thing, but I still don't want to be unfaithful, right? Okay, so I spoke about how I went the day before Thanksgiving, got out early, went to the West Side. That's kind of a tradition that I've been doing for I wouldn't say many years, because I just usually go to Central Park because it's still daylight. It's my only chance to go that time of year. You don't need to know about all that, but for the past couple of years, I've been going and then ending up at the bookshops, but one of which is the Shakespeare and Company, not related to the one in Paris, but it was just another branch. They used to have a number of them in the city, and then most of them closed except one, and then they opened up this second one, and I got all excited, and it was like November 2018, and I got all excited, and I went and I bought this book. 2 years later, I'm still reading it. And yes, I did stop in there this time too, but I didn't stay very long. That's Around the World in 80 Trees by Jonathan Drury. Illustrations by Lucille Clerc, which is important, I think, to note, because there are a lot of beautiful illustrations in here. And I love the subject, but it's kind of like you read about a tree and another tree, and that's good for a while. So if I don't actually finish it, I would just like to make a little more progress in it. This is a mystery. I think it might be in this pile, the only mystery. So I might be able to do a teen mystery this month if I finish this book. I started it, weirdly enough, in last November. It was the only fiction book I even touched last November, the previous November 2019. And then I, didn't continue it until this summer, and I made some progress, and then other books got in the way. It's one of my British Library crime classics, the dented one, because it came in all dented when I ordered it from Thrift Books. The Cornish Coast Murder by John Bude. It is a pretty interesting story. I feel like it just pointing to one person, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I wasn't very heavily invested, but I kind of like the idea of Cornwall. So, and I've been kind of like randomly running into episodes of Poldark lately. Not that I'm really into it, but it kind of got me in the mood for Cornwall. Just a little bit. Okay. This is a book that I really don't think I'm going to finish this year. But I still want to make more progress in it. It's kind of a buddy read with my sister. We started it in August. I made most of my progress in September. One day I just picked it up and started flying with it. And then I got up to page 322. And then got into October. Technically this was written in Victorian times, but it was French. So this is Alexandre Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo. So far I very much recommend it, but it is quite the doorstopper. So we'll see how much farther I get in that. So we have 2 more books. This one I started probably either late last year or early this year. I had it with me like Dombey and Son when I was on jury duty. I didn't get onto a jury. But there was someone who had to go home because they had the flu. I was like, I was getting so stressed because even in January I was thinking about, you can't just have people show up sick. I wonder what they're going to do in the future with that. Like if someone gets cold in, you're supposed to go in no matter what. Like unless you've been able to put it off, which I had actually put it off one time. Long story short, these kind of things always make me anxious. And speaking of anxiety, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb. It's a good book. I just got stuck at one point, and it's about a therapist that needs therapy or goes to therapy. And man, I'd like to really finish this book. Last but not least, another book that I've made tremendous, I hate that word now, quite a lot of progress in. He's a writer I really like, and yet past couple of books I just have gone so slowly at his books. I don't know why, but this is a book that I bought probably late last year, and this is Ring the Hill by Tom Cox. He writes a lot of stories. It's almost nature writing, almost history writing, just ramblings about his life, about swimming, about the areas where he lives in England. He moves around a lot. This guy moves around so much. This year, because I follow his social media, he's moved around a couple of times, I think. And he has cats. So that was what got me into him, was reading about his cat stories. And they're really humorous, but he's got 2 cats now. One of which is quite old, and the other one is not so old. But I know this is going to cover some of the deaths of some of the cats soon, so I think maybe that's what's been putting me off, knowing I'm going to get there soon. But I still want to read it, and it is one of the ones I want to finish the most this year. So, have you read any of these books? And if you have, please let me know what you thought of them. And I mean, no spoilers, but if anything here you think I should make a priority, by all means, please suggest. Have you guys ever done this to yourself where you have so many books? Oh my goodness. So I think that's all for now. And if you like talking about mountains and mountains of unfinished books, please subscribe. This is Catherine at Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely tea and many, many book-filled day. Bye.